And next we have Michelle Egger. She's the co-founder and CEO of BioMilk. As a passionate food scientist, Michelle looks to combat global food security and malnutrition in everything she does. She has expertise in dairy fermentation, formulation, and processing, and is thrilled to ditch the cows for humans. Inspired by upstream solutions for infant nutrition at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, she became obsessed with advancing human nutrition through better infant feeding options. Michelle seeks to harness the capacity to drive environmental and social change through creative food solutions with a consumer-first design. Her entrepreneurial expertise in social impact and sustainable business models drives her commitment to seeking mission-aligned partners. Michelle?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm not in an airport, but we're still doing construction in our office, so you might hear some light drilling or pounding behind me just to keep things zesty. Today, I'm not going to bring any slides. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and our background here at BioMilk and the work that we do. But what I really want to inspire is encouraging all of us to think differently about how we acquire capital in fundraising rounds and how we use the soft power that we have as female founders to be able to push back on a really staid and frankly unequal system of investing in female founders and having female investment partners in large VC funds. So a little about me to kick us off. My name is Michelle Egger. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BioMilk, where we're leveraging next generation science for our next generation. We are utilizing human mammary epithelial cells to be able to create monolayers of tissue outside of the body in a 3D construct and produce breast milk outside of the body. And to many people outside of the FemTech space, we have to spend a lot of time explaining why there might be a need for mothers when exclusive breastfeeding doesn't work to have something other than formula or donor milk. But I'm going to assume, based on the audience we have today, that I don't have to go into great detail about how challenging exclusive breastfeeding can be for parents and families, and how isolating, stigmatizing, and shameful mothers and parents feel about having to use formula when exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life is not a possibility for their family. Here at BioMilk, we've about 2 years into our journey. We like to say we're in our first trimester by business development. And BioMilk was born out of the frustration of a breastfeeding mom. Layla Strickland, my CSO and co-founder, is a PhD cell biologist, had just completed a postdoc at Stanford, pumping alone in a closet, unable to breastfeed her son adequately, and asked herself, this is fundamentally a cellular process. Why can't we look to use cell biology to make milk outside of the body so that for women like me, where breastfeeding is incredibly challenging, exclusive breastfeeding doesn't have to be the only way to get human nutrients for your child? And this was all the way back in 2013 that Layla first had this aha moment. She spent a series of years working mainly in bovine cells in a small lab space here in Research Triangle Park. And since 2019, she and I have been partnered working on BioMilk, focused on bringing whole human milk commercialized to the market by 2025. We're about a team of 25 people here in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and are focused on how we can empower families, encourage more families to be able to have access to human nutrients instead of bovine when exclusive breastfeeding doesn't work, and reduce the amount of bovine milk that we see consumed by infants through dairy formula to help better support the sustainability of our planet. But none of that really matters as much as what I want to talk today about in some ways, which is the fact that we can look at capital and see that FemTech and fem-focused work is not funded equivalently. The representation of founders who found these companies are not funded equivalently. And in VC firms, we see that there is not support of women at a leadership level frequently. And so we raised a Series A. We first raised a seed in 2020. $3.5 million with Breakthrough Energy Ventures as our lead. And we found fantastic mission-aligned partners that we really, really loved. They were incredibly supportive of the work we were doing. And for us, as we headed towards Series A here in 2021, we realized we didn't really want to bring on partners that weren't going to be mission-aligned the way our first set had been. But we didn't know how to gracefully say no to funds and groups that just weren't going to be a good fit for us. As female founders, you're really expected to be pleasant and happy and delighted by anyone who wants to give you capital. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much like online or in-person dating, where you can quickly feel if there's a match or there's not. And so we devised a system where we'd use partnership criteria, actually making venture capital partners who are interested in investing in BioMilk in our Series A vet themselves in or out of our process. We felt like it was a fantastic way to not waste their time if they weren't going to be able to align with our values to continue to try to pursue us. And it would give us the opportunity to say, well, you don't meet our criteria, which is really important to us, and therefore you wouldn't be a good partner anyway, long earlier in the conversation than when it often comes up in the final phases of diligence. So for us, the 3 partnership criteria that we required every investor in our Series A to follow were as follows. They had to have at least 1 female founder at a partner level within their firm, not an admin, not our venture associate, a female partner who is included and incentivized just like all of the other partners around the table. They had to have at least 10% of their portfolio with diverse or disadvantaged founders. We didn't tell them how to quantify that. They just had to have people that they knew represented something different in their portfolio and be actively supporting founders different than the classic elite MBA trained white males that typically pervade the capital being invested. And lastly, they had to have a mandate in their work around nutrition, health, or sustainability. It didn't have to be explicitly matched to what we were doing, but it had to have a reason why that capital was being deployed beyond just a return. And when we asked groups to be able to pre-vet based on these questions, even through Calendly links before they had a first meeting with us, we had the opportunity to quickly tell them, we mean business. We're walking the walk here, and we expect you to do the same. And those who rose to that occasion were delighted, were excited to see us, and it was a clear match. And those who were like, what is this? Clearly selected out of the process, which usually was a better fit for us and for them. I'm going to tell you, it's not a comfortable process. I had many a phone call with groups, especially groups of all men, genuinely looking at me like had grown a third eye when I had to share, well, you don't meet our partnership criteria and we're not able to move any further in discussions when I explained what the criteria were. But for as many uncomfortable conversations or kind of moments where I thought, whew, this is a little pushy, I also had fantastic calls with, for instance, young female associates in a firm that had been waiting on a promotion for years, still hadn't been moving up, and were able to go back to their firms and to their LPs and explain that BioMilk wasn't interested in their capital unless they were going to change the way they worked, resulting in promotions, resulting in conversations, and resulting in just pushing firms to look introspectively on, are they doing as much work as they're asking their portfolios companies to do for them? To be honest, it worked well for us in part because of the moment that we're in that's incredibly frothy, even in FemTech. It worked for us in that we had the ability to be relatively selective with our partners and wanted a smaller aperture for our $20 million Series A to begin with. But I encourage all of us to think about, how do we use screening tools? How do we use indicators as a way to make this process more efficient and better for everyone? And at a time where there is an incredible want to invest in companies with amazing tech, many of whom have female founders or are generating ideas targeted at female audiences, it's a perfect time to ask funds to reflect what they want to see the opportunities to be. I personally think that we have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for, and we can use our values to be able to influence others. I hope all of you are able to find an approach that works for you in this way, and I'm happy to answer any questions or be a support along your journey.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was wonderful to learn a little bit more about how you vetted out some of your funding. It doesn't look like there are any questions at this time, so if anyone can think of any towards the end, we will have Q&A.